Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the December 10th meeting of the Illinois Forensic Science Commission. My name is Amy Wotruba. I'm the Executive Director of the Commission. Director Kelly will be joining us hopefully late by the end of the meeting. Oh, and we have Carrie now too. So I will turn it over to Deputy Director Woolery to call the meeting to order.
Good morning, everybody. Happy December. I hope everybody's holiday season is getting off to a good start. We will start the roll call with our commission members. And Amy, do you want to just go through from your screen and just make sure everybody's here?
I will. Claire Dragovich.
Present.
Deputy Director Robin Woolery.
Here.
Dr. Arun Kumar.
Present.
Ms. Baker.
Present.
Mr. Buford.
Present.
Ms. Drummond. Don't think she's here yet. Mr. Hanlon, as I mentioned, he sadly had a last minute unexpected work conflict, so he will not be joining us today. Judge Hill.
Present.
Ms. Hoos.
She said she was having AV issues.
Oh, she's having AV issues. Okay,
Yeah.
I do see her. She is present, so I'm going to mark her present. Dr. Hughes.
Present.
Ms. Ryhill.
Present.
Ms. Tucker.
Present.
Ms. Ward. I see you. Oh, you're here. Okay. Also not having audio. So you do have quorum. And
Okay.
do you want me to go through based on my screen, members of the public that I see?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I see Amy Miles, Gina Havlick, Elizabeth Leahy, Lindsay Simpson, Maya Dukmasova, Timothy Rupel, and Timothy. And someone, oh, it looks like Jody rejoined. Okay, so that's who I have now. Anyone else who joins later will be reflected in the minutes. It shows up on the recording when I do the minutes.
Okay, excellent. I think we can move forward to the review and adoption of our minutes from the September 10th meeting. Amy,
I do have one noted correction that someone reached out with me just to correct the dates. I had mistakenly, for the meetings for next year, I had 2025 instead of 2026. So I will make, whenever you make a motion, I will, it will be with those noted corrections and I will make that correction.
Okay, great. That was the only ones I had also. So fabulous. So does anybody want to make a motion to accept the review of the minutes with the one correction for the dates?
Motion to approve. I'll second that, Karen Tucker.
Okay, looks like Pani made the motion and Karen seconded it. Okay, then it has been moved and seconded. Do we have to vote, Amy?
We do, just all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then we will move on to the executive director summary. Amy, take it away.
Okay, thanks. For this, I'm going to share, hopefully successfully, my PowerPoint. Just so you know, I can't see you very well. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Amy, we're good.
Okay, so I can't see you while I have slides up. So if you need to say anything, just speak up. So let me move ahead. There's our agenda. So I'm going to start with the legal legislative update. Not too much to provide updates on the issue of Coverdell. So at the NAFSB conference in October, we received a very comprehensive presentation from the individual who's involved in lobbying on behalf of the CFSO, the Consortium of Forensic Science Organizations, including grant funding. So she provided us with, I learned more about federal appropriations than I ever wanted to know. At that time, we were still we were at the beginning of the government shutdown. So basically, the best update I have as of now is that she indicated that the funding amounts that were pending at that time were higher than what they were originally at when we last met and when we issued when I wrote the letter in support of full funding. So she was cautiously optimistic that Coverdell would, be funded at adequate levels. However, at that time, not knowing how long the shutdown was going to last, she did indicate one possible impact could be that just everything is slowed down and delayed a bit because of the shutdown. So we'll stay tuned for that. Illinois' legislative session, Carrie, I think I got the date right, but it begins mid-January. I think it's January. I see. Okay, Carrie's joined audio with phone. Begins in mid-January. So we'll be actively, I'll start a new tracker for this session as well. That'll be on Teams and anyone can input anything that they want. And I'll provide, if there's anything really important, I'll do an email blast letting you know. The only case to come out of Illinois that I identified related to forensic science was the Illinois Supreme Court's decision in People versus Smith, which came out in October. And it's just, in general, that was a situation where the state elicited testimony from an expert, a gunshot residue expert, and discussing other lab standards for reaching conclusions that differed from the lab where this expert worked, and they were not disclosed prior to trial and could have been perceived by the jury as differing from what the expert's conclusions were. So they did find a discovery violation there, but they found that it did not warrant reversal. So just letting you know about that. Education and outreach. So the National Association of Forensic Science Boards had their annual meeting in October. Deputy Director Wooler and I attended. As outlined at the last meeting, it was a very, and feel free to jump in, it was a very dense, very beneficial conference, especially for me and for the work of the commission. A lot of really great topics. A few of those topics I will bring up in more detail later during discussion items. Deputy Director, did you have anything you wanted to add about that conference?
Yes, I thought the conference was really good. This was the third conference for NAFSB. Next year's conference will be in Milwaukee. Is that right? No, not
Yes.
Milwaukee. Is it Milwaukee?
Milwaukee,
It is
yes.
Milwaukee. It will be in Milwaukee next year. If any of our members are interested in attending, it's a great conference. It's just 2 days. And Amy didn't mention she was a speaker for 2 different presentations and did a great job.
Oh, thank you. Yes, and since the meeting in 2026 is so close, it's in Milwaukee, I'm hoping that perhaps, we can have some participation from commission members. And when I'm going through the budget process for next year, I will see if I can possibly, put in for funds to assist perhaps with the conference registration fee. It's actually a pretty affordable conference compared to other scientific conferences, but we'll see. Obviously, budgets are difficult, especially difficult right now, but we'll see if that's a possibility for anyone who wants to try and attend. I think it would be, I think that there will be a lot of regional attendance. When they've had these conferences, they tend to obviously get more people from the area where the conference is because the travel is less expensive. So I think it would be especially beneficial to us, and both for substance, but then also to have a presence since this is being held in our region. Also some news to share. On Monday, they held their annual meeting, and there was a change in the executive committee, the membership, and I was nominated to be a member of the executive committee, and I was elected to be on their executive committee. So I now will I don't know how long my term is. I don't remember. So I now will be serving on their executive committee. It's 7 people. So that I think will be really great because it will allow me to engage with them more directly and more substantively. Which this organization, as you know, it provides a great mechanism, not just for resources and sharing with other commissions and boards, but also for interaction with other groups such as ASCLD. And so hopefully this will, my work with them will be directly beneficial to the commission, the commission's work and also getting the word out there about our commission. I will say that the only other commission that has a staff member on the executive committee is Texas. So I think that's really good for us and shows how it highlights our growth and the important work that the commission has done over the last 4 years. So we are, as I've said before, we are the most active commission as far as meetings go, especially over the last year. So any questions on any of that? Okay. The only other conference.
Amy, this
Yes.
is Carrie. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to make a comment on that. I appreciate your willingness to serve on the board in that way, to be willing to do that, and I think it contributes to why we have such an active commission. And I love that you were willing to sort of just jump right in, and I think that's going to be truly beneficial to our commission as well. So I just wanted to thank you for being willing to do that. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And obviously it doesn't detract from any of my, the work of the commission. It just, I think it builds on it. So
yeah, for sure. I think it's supplemental. Definitely.
absolutely. Yeah. And this is, again, a young group, a young organization, but they are also expanding their blueprint or footprint as, kind of along the same timeline that we are. So it kind of worked out really well as timing wise as to when this group was formed. So the only other conference in the near future that I've put in for, and I believe Ms. Ryhill is also hopefully going to be attending, is the annual American Academy of Forensic Sciences meeting, which is in February. The topic this year is Back to Basics. I've already gone through and selected most of the presentations and meetings I plan to attend. I am now a member of AAFS. As a lawyer, I'm in their jurisprudence section, but I have identified a lot of topics that will directly relate to the work of the commission, as well as some for specific disciplines that, especially for maybe the training and technology subcommittees, that I'll try to attend to report back. Ms. Ryhill, do you have anything you want to add about AFS?
Yeah, I'm hoping to also sit in some of the stuff that we're, addressing with a lot of maybe defense motions or to quash DNA results and things like that. So
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what kind of like the bridge between the two, right? Is to sit in some of the stuff and to hear some of that information that I don't get at like the annual DNA conference, which is mostly about the technology.
Yeah, that is one thing that's great about this conference is that it brings in, there's stuff going on in every section every day, and it's a very active jurisprudence section. And those presentations do tend to do what Jeannie just said, which is kind of bridge the gap between the scientists and the lawyers. So there's a lot of good stuff there. One presentation in particular I will mention during the discussion section. And then real quick, we'll move on to general. So the first thing, yes, for those of, there's only a few, if you could please do your annual OneNet training at your earliest convenience, I would appreciate it. It is due to be done by the end of the year. ISP compiles their reporting in the middle of the month. So if you could strive for the middle of the month, great, but it has to be done by the end of the calendar year. Reach out to me, please, if you have any issues or questions. We have effective January 1, per the changes to our statute, we will have a new chairperson, and that is Ms. Dragovich. So the director will be joining later in the meeting, but I wanted to thank him for his 4 years serving as chairperson of the commission and really getting this all up and running. And he will still remain on the commission as a member per the statute. But starting January 1, Claire will be our chairperson. So congratulations, Claire. Something I wanted to bring up just now to float the general idea so that especially the subcommittees can think about it going forward is that in going through kind of doing a review of the work of the commission over the last 4 years since its inception, I was looking at data as far as, how many meetings we've had, how many subcommittee meetings we've had, what types of recommendations and resources you've put out there, what topics you've discussed, presentations, things like that. I would like to, for 2026, move toward creating, going forward, an annual report. I think that we have enough now as a commission that an annual report summarizing the work that the commission does during the year would be very beneficial. It would be an easy kind of one-stop document for people to access on the website that kind of summarizes the work that you've done during the year, not just related to output, meaning specific like recommendations or publications that you create or put out there, but also sometimes that preliminary research and fact gathering that goes into that happens before you create, let's say, a recommendation document. I also think now that as we move, I think it would be a good idea to kind of get that framework going, because in the future, as the commission continues to grow, if and when the commission has its own budget, then I think that would be something that would go into an annual report, and it would be kind of nice if we already had a basic structure going. Obviously, it can evolve over time. So the only thing I wanted to, I assume you'd be all okay with that. It would be something that I would put together. I expect then it would probably be presented to you at your March meeting in 2027 to review for the previous calendar year. So I just wanted to let the subcommittee chairs know, so that as they're going into their meetings throughout the year, have an eye toward working with me to kind of create a summary for each subcommittee that would be included in that annual report.
Amy, I think that's a great idea. I love the way we are building out the structure of the commission. Nothing gets done overnight. This has all been a process. This is 4 years for us, and we're still continuing to build. So I think the annual report would be a great backbone for the commission, and true to form, most organizations and commissions publish an annual report. So I think that's in line with other commissions in the state. So great idea.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments? And obviously we can talk about it at future meetings if there's certain things that you want to see in there, if you have thoughts or ideas. And then I'll look to other commissions, both forensic science commissions and not different types of commissions in Illinois, as far as, framework and ideas for content. I will tell you that kind of what the initial impetus for this was, is I was looking at subcommittee meetings over the past 4 years, and I noticed that there was a huge jump in the number of subcommittee meetings or subcommittee and commission meetings. Obviously, commission is always 4 per year, but the total number of meetings in 2025 jumped from, it had been like in the mid-20s for the previous 3 years to the mid-40s last year. So you guys in the last year really had a large year of growth as far as, meeting and addressing issues. All right.
If no one has.
Oh, I have one more, and he's not here.
Oh, mm-hmm.
But as I mentioned in the email before the meeting, John Hanlon, who has been on the commission since its inception, who also was on the governor's task force for forensic science that in part informed the creation of the commission, is going to be moving closer to retirement. And so he is not going to be applying for reappointment when his term expires. Today would have been his last meeting, but unfortunately he had a conflict. So I just wanted to put out there on behalf of the commission and thank John for his years of service. He has assured me that he will continue to stay up on the work of the commission and engage with us, which I hope he does, because he's been such a valuable member of the commission. So his term expires December 20th, I believe. So there will be an open spot on the commission for a community representative because that's the position that he filled. So he will be sorely missed. And that is all I have for executive director summary. Next is subcommittee reports.
All right. Let's move into our quality systems. Let's do the report. Who will be giving that report? Will that be Claire?
Yeah. Morning, Robin. This is Claire Dragovich.
Good morning.
Quality Systems. Just two things. One, we are going to try and get out our letter for requesting reports of significant nonconformities for calendar year 2025 by the end of this year. We're going to move it up a little bit to give people a little more time to be able to review that information and start preparing it. And secondly, the committee has met twice since the last quarterly meeting, and we did complete our review of the report issued in May by the University of Illinois Chicago regarding activities about the AFDL lab. And we will provide the rest of the update in part 3 of issues for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. We'll move on to training and career development. Karen, are you giving this report?
Yes, thanks, Robin. So the Training and Career Development Subcommittee has continued to meet and work on the Fundamentals of Forensic Science video series. The introductory video was added to the drug chemistry and the latent print video, and those were put out to all members for review. And we'll be discussing those a little bit further or taking possible action on them later in our meeting under issues for discussion. The committee also continues to work on the other disciplines. So firearms toxicology, DNA, and trace are all now in the content development phase, and they will be following similar format or structure such as what the drug chemistry and latent videos created follow. So it was nice to start with a smaller group of disciplines and kind of work out the, we'll call them bugs, format, timings, image issues, so that we can use those, we have that knowledge going forward to the other disciplines that we're still creating. We anticipate that some of these remaining disciplines, the videos may be complete for the commission to review in March. That's about it.
Okay, I know we're going to discuss this later on under issues for discussion, but I just want to say to your committee, thank you so very much for getting those 2 videos done. I don't know about anybody else, but they exceeded my expectations. So thank you very much for that. We'll move on to public policy. Since John isn't here, Amy, who will be covering for public policy?
I'm gonna summarize public policy.
Okay.
So public policy has met twice since the last quarterly meeting. They're meeting in October. They primarily spent time discussing ways in which the public policy subcommittee may want, how their work may overlap with quality systems with respect to the UIC AFDL THC testing issue. So they identified one specific area that they thought would be appropriate for public policy to look at, and that relates to complaint procedures for laboratories in Illinois. So they discussed if there would be value in, first they noted that any ISO 17025 labs, accredited labs, are required to have a process for accepting and evaluating complaints and for notifying the complainant of the lab's action and resolution related to that complaint, and that complaints can also be made to the accrediting body. And Claire, feel free to jump in if I say this wrong. But accrediting bodies can review both the administrative handling of complaints, so how the lab handles the complaint, as well as the substance of the underlying complaint. And both of those can result in a finding by the accrediting body. So the subcommittee basically discussed the fact that these complaint procedures exist, but they may not be well known to the public at large and or the legal community, how to do this outside of perhaps the context of a particular case. So they want to look at historical information related to past complaints and take a look at that. And given the small number of labs in Illinois, they've discussed whether it might be beneficial to create a public-facing resource document that would explain and provide the phone numbers or the website addresses, the contact information for the existing complaint procedures with labs in Illinois. They also talked about reaching out to ANAB since ANAB accredits the 3 main lab systems, to see if they, to give them an opportunity to discuss what may be discussed in the resource document. And they also acknowledge that, you know, while the commission doesn't have the authority to investigate complaints at this time, you know, that may change in the future. So they wanted to they thought it was a good idea to map this out, both for the short term and the potential long term. The second meeting, which was held in November, the subcommittee heard a presentation from representatives from the Kane County Forensic Laboratory, which is a laboratory that is being built in Kane County. They provided an update of current status of construction, operations, and kind of like the goals and timelines of what they're looking at. So we really appreciated them coming and presenting to the subcommittee and sharing that information. And the subcommittee will continue to stay in contact with them. And they obviously have participated in commission meetings for some time. So that's what public policy's been doing.
All right. It sounds like you all have been very busy. So thank you very much for the update. We'll move on to technology. Jeff, will you be presenting the technology report?
Yes. Good morning, Robin, and all our team members. The technology subcommittee last met in October, late October. We are now, again, bring everyone up to date, transitioning from our broad-based AI discussions as far as AI applications in forensics. We've transitioned now to a couple of topics that are pending. One of the topics is actually a follow-up to our phase 2 of emerging technologies. We want to do a follow-up for successes for agencies that have had successes in securing and implementing new emerging technologies, which will improve in their analytical workflows. So Illinois State Police, ISP Toxicology Discipline, has purchased QTOF Technologies, which is to improve their workflows. We have a pending presentation, which will give us an update of how this will improve their workflows and increase perhaps productivity in that particular discipline. That's a pending presentation that will be coming up for the technology subcommittee. Secondly, we discussed expanding and inviting guest speakers or subject matter experts in various areas of technology. One of the areas we want to drill down in will relate to quality assurance processes, which we can look at effective databases or what are called electronic quality management systems, EQMS, to see whether or not this is something in which the disciplines and overall operations will see an enhanced processes that their quality systems can use. So our next meeting will be after the holidays into next year in January. Those are the main topics that we've been discussing recently.
Thank you, Jeff, for the update. We'll move on to the FIG subcommittee. Chris, are you giving that report?
Sure. So we were able to meet twice since the last quarterly meeting in September and then in November, and we're continuing to work on the 3 documents or materials. One we pretty much finalized, which is that shorter version brochure that we would at some point distribute out to agencies once everything else is finalized and up on the website, the commission's website. That we started on that one because we figured it was the smallest amount of information and the easiest to finish up. So that one's done. And then we moved on to the FAQ, which is about 41 questions under 6 themes. And that's just taking a long time to get through because we want to get these answers quite, perfectly, we all agree on how it's addressed. So that's something that we continue to work on. We're trying to do that in the interim space between this and our January meeting. So we expect to be able to get through a lot, hopefully in that forthcoming meeting. And then the last one, which we haven't touched on, but we have a draft of, is like the workflow of how FIG kind of fits into casework, just to help people have a visual of that. And so those are the 3 that we're working on. Once we get those done into a form that we feel like is a final draft, we talked about at the last meeting, distributing those out to some subject matter experts to make sure that we didn't miss anything or if we need to tweak any of the information in there.
All right. Thank you, Chris. I'm looking forward to us getting those workflows and documents out to the general public. So good job. We'll move on to our newest subcommittee, drugs. Jill, are you giving that presentation?
I can. We don't really have anything to report just yet because we haven't met formally as a drug subcommittee. We do have it on the schedule in January, though.
Okay, great. I'm looking as a drug a past drug chemist. I'm looking forward to hearing about your workings on that subcommittee. So, is there a chair for that committee yet? Is there?
They haven't met yet, so that'll probably be discussed at the first meeting. I will just put out there again a call for anyone. I know everybody's stretched pretty thin with subcommittees, but if you are interested in joining that subcommittee, I don't expect that they will meet all that frequently at the beginning. So right now, Jill is the commission member on the subcommittee, and then we have a member from NERCL and a member from ISP. Who are not commission members, but they have volunteered to serve on the subcommittee. So if there's any other commission members that would like to join, please let me know, and I will add you to that subcommittee.
All right, great. Thank you. Then I think that covers all of our subcommittee reports. Amy, should we move on to issue for discussion?
Yes, the first issue is discussion and possible action on the fundamentals of forensic science video series pilot videos. Karen already kind of summarized the status, which is that the first two, the pilot videos, which is latent prints and drug chemistry, are complete. Those were distributed to you because we can't play them during a meeting. One is 18 minutes long and one is about 22 minutes long for your review. I also want to thank everyone who's on the subcommittee and isn't on the subcommittee who put so much time and effort into these. There was a lot of, hopefully, as Karen said, that the subsequent videos won't take as long because there were a lot of procedural process, technical issues worked out with these first two videos. But each video has the same introductory video, which was noted. So they'll all start with that little kind of intro snippet about the series and about the commission, and then it goes into the content. So hopefully everyone was able to watch those, and I would love to hear commission members' comments and feedback about them.
I had one comment about not so much about the videos, but a way to determine how useful our videos will be in the future. Should we be recording or looking at the number there? The video is going to be on YouTube, correct, Amy?
Yes. So until ISP switches to, I believe there was discussion of creating some type of microsite where ISP videos will be housed in the future. I don't know if that microsite will indicate how many views things have, but absolutely I could track, how many views the videos get once they are up on, I assume that they're going, because of their length, I assume they're going to have to be put on ISP's YouTube channel with the link to that video on the commission's webpage.
Yeah, I think it would be important for us to look at the number of views so we know whether or not, if it's really low, then we need to advertise a little better or something, but that would give us some kind of indication of whether or not our videos are hitting our target audiences, as well as we can determine from views, I guess. I don't know if anybody else has any other suggestion on how we can determine how effective our videos are. Please let us know.
You could always ask for,
right.
At the end of the videos, how it said, like, here's the website and here's the contact information. You could, at the end of the video, like, if they want different topics, or I don't know what, Robin, you'd want in terms of feedback, but I mean, that might open the floodgates. But if you're wanting something like that more substantial than just counts, that might be one way to do it. You could also,
that's not a bad idea.
You could also, so like the email isn't flooded, we could set up like a anonymous survey that just has like basic questions. And if they want to fill out who knows who will do that, but if they want to, they could fill out the questionnaire and it could just be automated. So then we could download those metrics very quickly. It wouldn't be like text boxes. It would just be like, you know, something that we could easily analyze. Those are two ideas.
I think that's a good idea. I think it's important just to make sure that, you know, we're not just doing videos for the heck of it, that they really are reaching an audience that, you know, it's useful for. So something to consider, Karen and training committee, just something to consider, you know, after we're maybe done producing the videos or, you know, during the production, if it's something we want to add to the end of the videos. Certainly not saying to change anything else, but just a suggestion for how we record or look at the number of views that we're getting.
And this is Art Hill. I think that we should also consider, I know, Robin, you talked about, you know, wait and see, do we have to advertise or market? I think we should, after we get at least these first two up on our website, to, I don't know, send out a notice to our stakeholders, maybe universities, maybe high schools, to say, hey, we've got this resource here. You might want to come take a look, just to get the ball rolling. I think that might be a way to sort of market ourselves, but also to draw attention to the existence of the videos that might not naturally happen just because we posted. So,
Judge, I think that's an excellent idea. And Amy, I think that kind of can tie into the NAFSB membership with us reaching out to the students. You know, perhaps that's something we can kind of advertise through that organization, that, hey, we have these videos for any student members or universities that we partner with, and just to let them know that those videos are there too. But I do agree, Judge, we talked in the past about more marketing for the commission, trying to get our presence out there so people knew that we existed. So I think this is a definite marketing tool that we could utilize to get our information out there, our name out there. I think we just have to decide the best way to go about that marketing. And I think we could certainly utilize the ISP Facebook pages and social media, but we might also want to think about how to, like, notify, if we want to notify the legislators that we're there. I have a call in with a senator tomorrow, and she wants to talk about the commission, and, you know, she's not even aware of what we do. So I think it's important for us to figure out some way to let people know, you know, because we're a new commission and a new board, that we're here and what services we, you know, provide.
I agree. I think that certainly with NAFSB, so they do a newsletter. I think it's monthly, but I'll double check, where they kind of highlight work of different commissions. So I could certainly, once we have these up, see if I can leverage that relationship and see if that would be something they'd be interested in highlighting in that newsletter, which they blast out, I think, not only to the membership, but they put on their social media presence. Perhaps, you know, this might be time, we've reached a point as a commission, perhaps for the March meeting, because that will give me some time to research different options and, you know, implications of certain social media type, you know, perhaps like the idea of the commission having its own LinkedIn page or something, that maybe we could discuss that at the March meeting, and have kind of a brainstorming session on possible ways to have more outreach in general. Direct contact, I can start to compile, you know, different groups, email lists that would be relevant to the commission, and then different social media, because that is how everybody gets gets their information these days is largely social media. So it might be time to think about if it's possible for the commission to have its own social media presence separate from ISP.
I think that would be a great idea. And even if at a minimum, it is just providing the dates and URL information for meetings at a minimum, right? But it would be great for National Forensic Science Week if the commission, reposts the videos or anyone else that wants to use them, and make them more easier for people to data mine and find. That'd be fantastic.
Okay. Anything specific to the videos?
This is Karen. So we are meeting next week, so I can bring this to the subcommittee about the the survey or the contact, or to provide feedback and to data mine some information on who's viewing them. But Amy, weren't we also talking about when we voted on these videos to be able to allow for some administrative changes if we needed it?
Yes, I was going to recommend that, similar to the training documents that you put out there, if you vote to approve the videos today, I would suggest that the commission, as part of that vote, give the Training and Career Development Subcommittee the power to make minor changes to the videos as needed. Not huge overhauls, but if something needs to be tweaked on a slide because of a development in that particular discipline, or there's a typo that's found, or we need to change an image or something like that, it would be very useful for them to just be able to do that without having to then take it down, wait a few months, and bring it back to the commission. I think that at the very least, once those videos are up on the page, as far as feedback, on the easiest way to do it right now until we do something more complicated or comprehensive would be, I'm hoping they're going to set it up on the resources page where it'll be like its own separate section, Fundamentals of Forensic Science Training Videos, and then there will be a link for each separate video. I could ask them to add just kind of for comments or suggestions about these videos, please email, and then it'd be another place to put the general commission email address. So those, at least at the beginning, could just come through that email address. And then we can decide later on if we want to embed something in the videos, if we want to change that last slide or set up the type of survey that Chris was discussing.
I think that's a great idea. Do we have any other suggestions or comments before we move for a vote?
So the only thing procedurally, since this is going to be a vote, pursuant to our procedures, would be to open it up for public comment on the topic of these training videos before the commission takes a vote. So I would just suggest that we open it up for public comment now. If anyone has public comment, you can raise your hand. I am not seeing anything. So basically then procedurally, what do you want to do the videos separately, or you want to do them collectively?
I think we can do them collectively, unless
Collectively?
somebody has.
Okay, so then maybe I'll just say it and then someone can make the motion. Does that work? So if someone wanted to make a motion to approve the training video, or the Fundamentals of Forensic Science videos addressing latent prints and drug chemistry, and to give the Training and Career Development Subcommittee the ability to make minor edits to those as needed.
This is Art Hill. I so move.
Dragovich, second.
Okay, I think we should probably do a roll call vote on this one. Better safe than sorry. So let's see. Deputy Director.
I agree. So affirmative.
Yes. Claire Dragovich.
Yes.
Dr. Arun Kumar.
Yes.
Ms. Baker.
Yes.
Mr. Buford.
Yes.
I do not see Ms. Drummond. Mr. Hanlon is not here. Judge Hill.
Yes.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes.
Dr. Hughes.
Yes.
Ms. Ryhill.
Yes.
Ms. Tucker,
Yes.
Ms. Ward.
Yes.
Great, that motion passes. Hopefully we'll get those up there. My guess is they'll be up after the first of the year. It usually takes a couple of weeks.
Excellent. Okay, then we will move on to the discussion and possible action on the revised commission bylaws. I hope everybody had a chance to review them. Amy, do you want to do some discussion on that?
Yes, I'm going to pull up, I did some slides on them. I will pull them up. So I'll start with the easy one. Based on our discussions at our last meeting, I drafted some proposed language to create a new section that specifically addresses the vice chairperson. It just says that beginning on January 1, commission members may elect from their numbers a vice chairperson to serve for a 2-year term. So that was the suggestion at the last meeting, is that the term be 2 years to coincide with the term of the chairperson. And then I kept it pretty, I didn't put a time frame in because I felt you needed flexibility, and I'll explain partly why when we get to the next section. But basically just saying that the vice chairperson can serve in the chairperson's stead as provided in section 17, which is the next section we'll look at, and shall perform any other duties as the commission may require of the vice chairperson. So it's pretty simple. Does anyone have any questions or discussion on that suggestion? Okay, so then this is the bigger one. So this is making everything in red were the proposed changes to or additions to the section on chairperson. And the main concern, so if you'll recall from the last meeting, was discussions of who presides over the meetings, to make sure that this section is in alignment with the new statute, the new statutory language, which provides that the governor will appoint a chairperson for 2-year terms on a set schedule of January 1 of even years. And so the first section addresses just, if the chairperson is not present at a meeting, the vice chair will act in the chairperson's stead. And if both people cannot be present at a meeting for some reason, then the chairperson will designate someone to preside over a meeting. The next section just brings in the new statutory language beginning January 1, just to make that part of the bylaws. The third paragraph kind of sets it up. Again, I didn't do a specific time frame, but sets it up for basically the odd year before the governor needs to appoint a new chairperson, that the commission shall nominate and select a person as a candidate for the position of chairperson and submit that recommendation to the governor. I didn't want to set a time frame on it, would be my suggestion, just because depending on the year, the governor's office may want more time, lead time, or less lead time. This year it was pretty easy because you had already elected a vice chairperson and designated Ms. Dragovich as your nominee for the next chair, or your recommendation, I should say, for the next chair. So that gives us some flexibility as to, my guess is the September meeting will likely be when this takes place, just because that gives a few months then to coordinate with the governor's office to get everything done that needs to be done for naming the new chair. And then the fourth paragraph addresses a couple of issues that were brought up at the last meeting, such as what happens if the chairperson resigns or their term expires and they do not re-up, or for otherwise leaves. Like what happens in that situation? What happens if the governor's office isn't able to put out that the new chairperson by January 1? And so what I was suggesting is there was already, this first sentence was already in the bylaws. And I think that addresses if the governor's office doesn't put it out by January 1, the sitting chairperson will continue to serve until a new chairperson is named. If the next sentence addresses if the chairperson is not able to complete their term, then the vice chairperson can serve in their stead until the appointment of a new chairperson by the governor. So essentially, I think we talked about this, that's kind of the normal rules of succession that would apply to most groups similar to the commission. So the vice chairperson could finish out that term. And then I also thought we might want to account for hopefully this will never happen. But if for some reason the chairperson can't complete their term and at that time there is no vice chairperson, I was thinking of, and tell me if you think this is a good idea or not. The only thing that is guaranteed continuity at this point is that you have an executive director, whether it's me or a future executive director. So for that little short period of time, which might be 1 or 2 meetings that need to take place to elect a new vice chairperson, that the executive director could just preside at the meetings. So that was my suggestion. I think that addresses all the concerns that were brought up at the last meeting. Any discussion, suggested changes, things that you think should be added? Can always add more at a later date.
Sure.
Oh, Carrie?
So thank you for working on this, Amy. And I think what's really good about just that last paragraph and your proposed solution there is it doesn't put us in the position of having to act super expeditiously to select a new vice chair. I think it buys the opportunity for a little bit of time, because I feel like the alternative to that is, sort of appointing or selecting sort of an interim commission member to preside over a given meeting. And I think that then lacks the continuity that what we have by having the executive director step into that role. And so I think there's no reason why that would have to go on for meeting after meeting. It just buys us, an opportunity to say, hey, we're going to plan that election for the next meeting, not this meeting. So I think it makes a lot of sense logistically, and I think it reads well. So that was just my feedback on it.
Thank you. And to be clear, it only empowers the executive director to preside at the meeting. The executive director doesn't get to vote. They in no way are a commission member. But as Carrie noted, it just kind of gives the commission the ability to have continuity as far as running their business meeting, if this were to ever happen.
I have one thing that maybe we might want to add.
Okay.
So I think first off, I like the changes. I think they're really, really good. There's a section that we haven't redlined or anything like that. It's section 30.
Okay.
Of the regular bylaws. It's about the conduct of meetings, and there's subparagraph A, which says if the chairperson is unable to preside over a meeting or a portion of the meeting, the chairperson may designate the deputy director or assistant deputy director of the ISP Division of Forensic Sciences, or another member of the commission. I was wondering, does it make sense for us, just to be consistent, to throw in that he or she may also designate the vice chairman, the vice chairperson? Just so it doesn't appear that there's a conflict between what we're proposing here, which I think is good, and this one particular section. It may be covered already, maybe, but it's just something that caught my eye.
I think that's a good idea. What I could do is to make sure it is consistent. For that section, it could read, if the chairperson is unable to preside over a meeting or a portion of a meeting, the vice chairperson, and then I can just copy the language in section 17, the vice chairperson shall act in the chairperson's stead. And then I could just copy what is in that first paragraph in red and add it to subsection A of section 30.
Sure. And again, it's just so that there's no apparent, it doesn't appear to be any kind of even small conflict.
No, I agree. I think that's a great idea. Okay. Does anyone else have any comments?
I agree with Judge Hill. I think Section 30, we definitely have to do some revision there. I think the verbiage there was prior to having the vice chair and prior to the director of the ISP being the chairperson. In the legislation, the chairperson, which at the beginning was the director, has a designee, and he still has a designee, but he would no longer necessarily be the chairperson. So I think subsection A only applies basically if the director is the chairperson. But without the director being the chairperson, then this doesn't really apply. I don't feel. So I do think that we have to look at revising this portion with the changes that we're suggesting to 17.
Yeah, I agree. I think too that if we just cut and paste again this top section of the first paragraph of 17 that's in red, if I just add it to that, so replace what's there with this new language, even if in the future the director is the chairperson, it would still then follow that the vice, and it kind of makes sense that that it would be now that there's a vice chair, the vice chair would replace the chairperson at the meeting, and as opposed to the designee.
I agree.
Okay. So if we still want to move forward, we can, when you vote, you can do the motion to approve with the noted amendments, and I can just go ahead and substitute that in to section 30 subsection A.
I think that works.
Okay. Is there any other
other discussion?
I'll take that down. So again, Robin, since this is a voting item, we'll just open it up with your to public comment. If anyone has any public comment related to the proposed vote on the bylaws, please raise your hand. I am seeing none. So again, I think this should be a roll call vote. So I'll do what I did before, which I'll phrase the motion maybe, and someone can make it.
Thank you.
So if there is a motion to approve the amendments to the commission's bylaws as noted in the document, and with the additional change as discussed for section 30.
This is Carrie Ward, so moved.
Yes, Buford, second.
Okay, I'll go down. Deputy Director why can't I say these words today? Deputy Director Woolery.
Yes.
Claire Dragovich.
Yes.
Dr. Arun Kumar.
Yes.
Ms. Baker.
Yes.
Mr. Buford.
Yes.
Judge Hill.
Yes.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes.
Dr. Hughes.
Yes.
Ms. Ryhill.
Yes.
Ms. Tucker.
Yes.
And Ms. Ward.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes.
All right, then we will move on to our last issue for discussion, discussion of THC testing at UIC Analytical Forensic Testing Laboratory.
Okay, so if you're all okay with this, I thought I would get the ball rolling with just a couple of updates related to this, this topic, and then you can discuss amongst yourselves. So the first, because my updates may trigger discussion points. So the first is, as I alluded to earlier, at the upcoming American Academy of Forensic Sciences meeting in February, in reviewing the agenda and all the different presentations, I noted that there are 2 defense attorneys from Illinois that are going to present on the topic of THC testing at the UIC AFTA laboratory. And so I will, those attorneys are Don Ramsell and Gil Sapir. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I will definitely be attending that presentation, and we'll report back both to the subcommittees and the commission on the content of that presentation. Also noting that there has been obviously continued general interest as well as media interest in this topic, both through attendance at commission meetings and inquiries that have come through my office. So related to the both AFTL and the commission's work related to AFTL. So I will provide you with any updates on those. And if there's any additional coverage that comes out, let you know that that's happening. As Ms. Dragovich noted, the Quality Systems Subcommittee has has completed the first step in its analysis and review of the UIC report, which was going through every single page and every single line of that 30-page document. They're now beginning their work on drafting their first responsive statement, which may include recommendations based on the info that is included in the report and information that was shared at meetings. As discussed at your last meeting, I think, and anyone jump in from that subcommittee who wants, the thought was, as you discussed at the last meeting, to first tackle responding to that report because it is what is out there in the public. There are many issues that have been noted by subcommittee members in going through that document, including many beyond the issue of just, the problems that existed with the testing at the lab. One of which is distinguishing between the testing and the response to the testing or the response to any nonconformities. Corrective actions are what labs do when they have a significant nonconformity. There's been a lot of discussion about the report itself and the fact that it was a law firm that was hired to conduct this investigation, if they called it that, and to issue a report. And that it's clear from it that they consulted with a toxicologist. It was written by lawyers, and that there are some issues with that. For example, there have been some noted errors, especially from a scientific standpoint, that could be a result of misunderstanding because it was written by lawyers versus scientists. There's also the issue of the subcommittee was made aware of the fact that that same law firm continues to be engaged in litigation for the university related to AFTL, in some aspects of litigation. And the fact that the report does not address all of the base problems. So I'll call like the underlying actual problems, as well as it really doesn't address at all whether there are problems with the corrective action or the responsive actions taken by the lab. So with that kind of summary, I wanted to share with you that at the NAFSB conference, there was a presentation from a lab manager from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. For anyone who follows the news related to labs, you may or may not be aware that CBI in the last few years experienced a situation with a particular analyst related to DNA testing. While by no means is it you can't compare it's not apples to apples comparison. This was a very large issue related to this DNA analyst. It has resulted actually there are pending criminal charges with respect to this analyst. But as CBI was giving its presentation and discussing the different steps it took once this issue was discovered, I took note of the fact that one thing that they did, and granted, this is a lab that remains open and obviously wants to have continuous improvement, but they hired a consulting firm to conduct an audit of the lab. That firm compiled a report, and that report is published on CBI's website. I thought it was noteworthy that this team that did the audit and issued the report was not lawyers. It wasn't a law firm. It was compiled, though it did have legal professionals, it sounds like. So it was a multidisciplinary team of professionals with expertise in the underlying disciplines, public and private sectors, forensic science, law enforcement, military, academia, among other things. They had experience in ISO 17025 compliance, ANAB accreditation, statutory governmance, and industry best practice. So I thought it was noteworthy that this type of assessment or audit, is possible. And I wanted to just let you know that in case that is something you want to consider as you continue to do your work, evaluating and studying and making recommendations related to AFTL.
Amy, this is Claire. I'd like to thank you for very succinctly summarizing many of the issues that the Quality Systems Subcommittee identified during our lengthy discussions while reviewing the report. I'm very thankful to the members of the Quality Systems Subcommittee. It was a very deliberately slow review, in-depth review of the report. And as Amy has said, we will be moving forward working on a report or response of the review that we performed.
Okay, are there any discussion points?
Yeah, looks like Dr. Arunkumar.
So you mentioned the audit that the Colorado lab undertook. Is that something that can be done?
So, you know, this is so, you know me, right? I always go back to your statute. So I think I wanted to, you know, I think we've come to the point where since you've done the Quality Systems Subcommittee has done the initial pass of that UIC report. So I think it might be worth, you know, stressing that while you are not a commission that has direct oversight authority over labs, meaning you can't, you know, shut them down, you can't take away their accreditation, things like that. The scope of what you can do as a commission is quite broad. I would like to, you know, we're always careful to act within our scope, but I wanted to make it clear that just because you're not a quote unquote oversight commission, that does not mean that you cannot respond to errors that occur at labs in Illinois. And in fact, your statute empowers you to do that. It empowers you to review issues that contribute to errors and inefficiencies. That includes policies, procedures, and practices, and to make recommendations. So I think that's part of why I brought it up, because I do think, you know, you can make whatever recommendations you want. And I think that you could make a recommendation. Obviously, you can't force anyone to do anything. But if you wanted to make recommendations for some type of additional, however, I mean, I don't want to, you know, put the cart before the horse, but I wanted to let you know that you can make whatever recommendations you feel need to be made, and that those recommendations or whatever you put out, in addition to just putting any documents up on the website, you can choose to disseminate those, as we kind of talked about earlier, disseminate those and communicate them with the world in whatever way you choose. So if you, let's say you complete your responsive document to the report and you have recommendations in there, you put it up on your website. If you want to blast that out to states attorneys organizations, defense attorney organizations, the legal system in general, you know, law enforcement agencies, lab systems, whoever you want to communicate that to, you can do that. You now have the structure. You could always do it, but you now effectively have the structure to be able to do that. I think Claire has her hand up.
Yeah, Pani, to the best of my knowledge, CBI chose to hire independent external auditors to assist them in assessing the scope of their issue. And so what I think is important about understanding that is that there are potentially vendors in the US that could be contracted to provide this type of assistance, and that can be independent from the lab itself, as opposed to hiring a legal team to come in. So I definitely think that's something we can discuss more at our next quality subcommittee meeting.
And I did see, and I think it was a news article I read about it, it looks to me like they put it, I mean, CBI is a government organization, right? I assume they have procurement rules like we do. I assume they put it out to bid because I read somewhere, I think that they had 5 bids that were submitted, and then they ultimately settled on the consulting firm that they settled on. Judge?
Yeah, thank you. So I want to also thank Claire and Amy for the sort of the painstakingly thorough efforts in terms of going through this report line by line, and understanding or questioning the basis of some of the things that were written, sort of challenging some assumptions that were in the document. So I want to make a couple points. The first is that the document that we reviewed, written by attorneys hired by the lab, as was pointed out, written by lawyers, and with that comes sort of a filter through which we should be looking at this. Those lawyers are hired by that lab, hired by UIC, and they have a client that they're serving, and that is UIC and the AFTO lab. So you have to look at the document in that light. The other aspect of this is that document is out there, and for any members of the public or other stakeholders who want to figure out, hey, what happened here? That's the document that is presenting. And to the extent that we have concerns about the document, it's important, I believe, that we as a commission make a statement in terms of what we think is right, what we think is wrong, what we still have questions about, for the sake of forensic science. So I think that's really, really important. And not to sort of jump ahead of our subcommittee chairperson, but there's a possibility, I suppose, that by the spring commission meeting that our subcommittee is going to come back to the commission with certain recommendations. So I think it's important that we continue to do the work here to be sure that the record is set straight, if for nothing else, but for the sake of forensic science. Any questions, any deficiencies, that kind of thing, I think it's important for we as a commission to stand up for that.
Looks like Dr. Arun-Kumar.
My question or comment, I know we're trying to, look at this report and, suggest or, put a response. Would it help us, because we're all in Illinois too, we're all in labs also, to have somebody, I mean, just like what Colorado did, that lab did it on their own. Would it help us to have someone like give an opinion or talk about it or something for, to help us with our response, right? I don't know. I know we have toxicologists and everything, but just having someone like from the outside just give us a recommendation or comment. I don't know what our resources are. I know we have people come and talk to us, like in the FTG committee, of the work they did and things, but I don't know if there is ability to get somebody to help us with the response. That it's just so it's not just, there is another person who we think or who we know is qualified to look at all this also. I don't.
Hi, Pani. We have had subject matter experts from outside of the state of Illinois talk to us about different issues related to forensic toxicology.
Okay.
I don't know that we need a team like CBI hired for us to be able to respond or put out some kind of statement about the report that was generated. There are a lot of inconsistencies in the report, even beyond getting into forensic science. There are a lot of contradictory statements in that report before we even touch science. But I think if we were to find a team or whomever would pay for this or however it would happen, I don't think that audit would be limited to the report. I think ideally it would be getting the substantive documents from the lab and going through that would be where the value would be in that type of service. But again, that's definitely something we could discuss more at the Quality Systems Subcommittee.
Thank you.
I just want to note, I believe Director Kelly has joined the call. Or at least he had. I don't know if he.
Yes, thank you.
Hi. Does anyone have anything else they want to add about this or the topic of AFTL in general? That's why we have this as a standing discussion item, is so if anyone else has anything they want to bring up related to this topic, you have the ability to do so. Nope.
Okay, Amy, I think we can move on to our next item, which is housekeeping item. You want to cover that?
I believe perhaps the director had something he wanted to bring up during housekeeping items.
I do. I just wanted to acknowledge that what you all already know, we have a newly appointed chair. And so I know Robin has been keeping the seat warm for me for multiple meetings, and all the more reason why it's good that the governor has appointed a new chair. I congratulate the new chair and have complete confidence in everybody on the commission. Just because I will not be the chair doesn't mean ISP won't be fully engaged and still supporting both administratively and in terms of input and feedback through the various commission committees. Will remain actively engaged, and very, very proud of where this commission has come from a kernel of an idea that myself and my former first deputy Matt Davis had about, hey, what if we did some kind of commission on forensics? To now here, almost 7 years later, where it is an excellent part of the forensics environment and the ecosystem we have in this state, which is very robust and professional and I think cutting edge in many ways. So I thank everybody for their efforts and in their continued efforts. Thank those people who have served that are also departing, going on to other things, and welcome any new appointees. And just appreciate the opportunity to have served as the temporary custodian for the commission. And now I'm very excited to hand it off and see it keep growing. I'm very grateful for the work that Amy has done and that you all have done. And that's it. So thank you.
Thank you so very much, Director, for leading us for the last 7 years through the commission and the task force. And looking forward to Claire taking over as the new chairperson. Amy, did you have any additional housekeeping items?
I do not. I don't know if anyone else does.
Then I think we can move on to public comment.
Anyone who wishes to make public comment, please raise your hand or indicate in the chat. I will take a look in the chat. I am seeing no one. Going once, going twice. All right, Robin.
All right, then I think our next meeting is in March.
It is March 11th at 10 a.m. It will be in person in Urbana at UIUC. It will also be available via WebEx.
Excellent. So at this point, I think we can call for an adjournment. But before we do, just want to wish everybody a very happy holiday season and stay safe. Amy, you want to call for the adjournment?
Sure. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for all your work this year. It's a pleasure to work with you all, and I look forward to more in 2026.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.